What happens when the man demanding justice won't speak the truth himself? Senator Marco Rubio has made a career sounding tough on foreign adversaries, especially Vladimir Putin. But when it came time to say what the world already knows, that Putin is a war criminal, Rubio didn't just hesitate. He froze. And in that silence, a bigger question emerged. Is America still willing to stand for anything at all? It all started with Representative Keating. Instead of jumping right into policy, he opened with a story, a heartfelt, emotional memory of his uncle, James Arthur Keating, who served in France during World War II. His uncle had questioned whether fighting for a small piece of muddy land was worth the cost in human lives.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will miss my seatmate, Jerry Conley. He loved sitting here, and we loved him. Secretary, in 1944, my uncle, James Arthur Keating, was serving in France, and as soldiers, his fellow soldiers were dying around him, he wrote a letter back in combat, back home, about the cost of human sacrifice and whether it was worthwhile to defend a piece of mud on the earth. Only a week after that letter, he answered that question while carrying lead in himself, as one of the people in his command was exposed and injured. He was wounded himself carrying lead and crawled out there, brought him back to safety, saved his life, and as he was going for another person, was machine gunned to death himself and killed in action. 400,000 other American families gave the same sacrifice, but the peace and prosperity that came forward in the world has never seen. It's a transatlantic alliance where our allies sacrificed their young men and women when America was attacked in 9/11, and economically, they're a $1.6 trillion trading partner with us with 16 million jobs on both sides of the continent. So my questions today are looking for clarity on where we stand with our allies and partners for more than 80 years, because they're expressing their doubts. They're expressing their doubts publicly. They've expressed it to me privately. So as the face of our country, as the lead foreign policy representative in the United States, I'm just looking for this clarity. So first, simply answer this question, if you will. Is Russia the aggressor in this Ukraine war?
Yeah, Russia invaded Ukraine.
So they are the aggressor in this war, correct?
They invaded them, yes.
Well, thank you, sir, because it's important to get this clarity, because President Donald Trump said it was Ukraine that started this war, and our allies have the right to know this. Secondly, the person we're negotiating with, Vladimir Putin, is he a war criminal?
Well, I think you can look at instances that have happened there and certainly characterize them as war crimes, but our intent is to end the war.
Is he a war criminal?
We can't end the war without talking to
No,
Mr. Putin.
that's pretty simple. Is he a war criminal?
Well, that's
this man we're negotiating with, Vladimir Putin. Is he a war criminal? That's not tough.
But what? I'm trying to answer your question by telling you that we're trying to end the war here.
Go ahead.
No,
You're
it's not a
equivocating.
simple answer.
You are equivocating, sir. Just answer the question.
I'm answering your question, and the answer is that war crimes have been committed, no doubt. And who's responsible for that? There will be time and place for that accountability. But right now, the job is to end the war.
So you won't answer the question.
If we don't end the war, people are going to get
Reclaiming
killed.
my time, sir, let me go on. Because I don't understand this. Because you're sitting in front of us now as Secretary of State. It wasn't long ago that you were sitting as a senator with Secretary of State nominee Rex Tillerson at the time, in the exact same circumstances, only reversed, and you questioned him about Putin directing attacks against schools, markets, hospitals, playgrounds, and on top of this, in this instance, he's abducted 20,000 children, a clear war crime. So you were very clear then Vladimir Putin was a war criminal. Now you're unmaking him a war criminal, and you won't answer the question about the exact same circumstances.
You're putting words in my mouth.
I'm reclaiming my time, sir.
You're putting words in my mouth.
And you know what you said to Secretary Tillerson at the end of his answer when he equivocated just as you are right now?
I've not equivocated.
You said,
you just don't let me
sure
answer.
Sounds like it to me. Then I'll give you a second chance. Is Vladimir
never gave me a
Putin
first
a
chance.
war criminal?
I already told you war crimes have been committed.
No, you didn't tell me if he's a war criminal.
Mr. Chairman, am I allowed to answer questions?
I'm reclaiming my time, sir, and listen, I'm
If he
using
keeps
your own
reclaiming
words so you don't have to answer. Did you know what you said to then nominee Secretary of State Tillerson? You said you were very discouraged in his inability to accept that Putin was indeed a war criminal. Your words, we don't need any more. You're inconsistent. The third question I have, sir, is this.
I answered your question. You just don't let
You
me
did
answer.
not answer the question about Putin's
Well, you
war
keep
criminal
reclaiming your
conduct
time.
in Ukraine.
You ask me a question, then you reclaim your time. So how can I answer
You
the
answered
question?
it. Listen, let me go forward with this. 3 questions. And I'm
Or are you
being
gonna
pretty
reclaim
clear to
time
you.
on those too?
I'm giving you a chance to answer. Give me a chance to ask the question. Here it is. So there's a concern among these allies that we've had, our closest allies, about the one-sidedness of the negotiations with Russia and Ukraine.
Gentleman's
Regular
time has
order.
expired. Secretary Rubio, if you'd like to respond, by all means.
Can
go
I
ahead.
reclaim my time for a few seconds? Thank you. Number one, crimes have been committed in the war on Ukraine, and there will be accountability for that. But our goal right now is to end that war, because let me tell you, every single day that that war goes on, more people are killed, more people are maimed, and frankly, more war crimes are being committed every day that the war lasts. Number one. Number two, I don't know how European allies could say that. I talk to European allies literally every single day. I see or talk to the foreign minister of the UK and France and Germany more than I see or talk to my own kids in some days.
Chairman,
So these are all
I'm
falsehoods
reclaiming
and
my
it's
time
important.
now.
You have no time.
Because
You're not
you've given him
recognized, Mr.
time,
Keating.
and I asked unanimous
Not recognized,
consent.
Mr. Keating.
Chairman,
You're not.
But only a week later, he answered his own question by crawling across a battlefield to rescue a wounded soldier. He saved a life and was killed in the attempt. It was the ultimate sacrifice, one that thousands of American families have known far too well. Keating used this story as a tribute, yes, but also as a mirror, to show what bravery looks like, to show what it means to act with moral clarity, even when the cost is high. The message was clear: courage matters. And when lives are on the line, silence is complicity. Then came the moment. Keating turned the heat up, not with emotion, but with precision. He asked what should have been a simple question: is Russia the aggressor in the war against Ukraine? The Secretary of State nodded. Yes, Russia invaded. So far, so good. But then came the real test. Is Vladimir Putin a war criminal? And that's where everything unraveled. The Secretary danced around the answer. He said war crimes had occurred. He acknowledged the horror, the bloodshed, the suffering. But he refused to call Putin what he is, a war criminal. Instead, he hid behind diplomatic language, said that negotiations were still ongoing, that peace was the priority. But here's the twist. The person grilling the Secretary, the one demanding that he say the words, was Marco Rubio, a man who, not long ago, sat on the other side of this exact exchange. Back then, it was Rubio pushing Rex Tillerson, Trump's Secretary of State nominee, to admit that Putin was guilty of directing attacks on hospitals and playgrounds. Rubio had been relentless, disgusted even, when Tillerson wouldn't say it outright. "I'm discouraged," Rubio had said, "by your inability to call Putin a war criminal." Now, Rubio was the one equivocating. When asked directly if Putin was a war criminal, Rubio slipped into vague statements. He acknowledged war crimes, but wouldn't attach them to a name. Not this time. Not when it might cost him something. That's not just a contradiction. It's hypocrisy, because while Rubio was hammering the Secretary for dodging, he was doing the exact same thing, repeating the same political choreography. And in that moment, the entire exchange turned from principled debate to political theater. This isn't just about one label. It's not about headlines or gotcha questions. It's about accountability. It's about whether the United States, after decades of global leadership, still has the backbone to speak the truth when it matters. Because the world is watching, and they're not impressed that America's closest allies have begun asking, publicly and privately, if the U.S. is still reliable, if our leaders will stand firm when dictators cross lines, or if they'll just deliver carefully worded statements and hope the world forgets. It's not just Ukraine that's affected. It's every country wondering if America still backs up its words with action. That Rubio's refusal to clearly condemn Putin sends a message, and not the one he thinks it does. The IT tells tyrants that the U.S. is no longer united in moral clarity, that politics will always come before principle, that even after bombs fall on children, even after mass graves are discovered, even after 20,000 Ukrainian children are abducted from their families, America might still hesitate to say what needs to be said. And if that's the case, what do we even stand for? The hearing devolved into chaos. Interruptions. Time being reclaimed. Heated exchanges that turned into finger-pointing. Keating pushed hard, trying to hold Rubio to his own past words. He quoted him directly, reminded him that he once demanded an answer and now refused to give one. Rubio, defensive, insisted he had answered. But viewers could see through it that it didn't look like diplomacy. It looked like cowardice, because if you believe war crimes have occurred, and you know who gave the orders, and you refuse to say the name, that's not strength. That's surrender. And no amount of political spin can cover it up. Rubio tried to reframe the moment. He said the priority should be ending the war. That peace was more important than naming names. But justice without accountability? That's not peace. That's delay. That's a cover-up. That's giving the perpetrators time to regroup, rebuild, and do it again. Let's be real. Peace without justice is not peace. It's betrayal. It's a message to victims that their suffering doesn't matter as much as political timing. And it's a signal to every dictator watching that they can get away with it, as long as they're too powerful to name. Rubio's silence wasn't strategic. It was calculated. And the world noticed. Because in the middle of that hearing, where every word could shape global perception, a U.S. senator who once demanded truth decided to hide behind half-statements and blurry moral lines. And while he played both sides, lives continued to be lost. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest. It's about choosing between comfort and courage. And in that room, when the spotlight was brightest, Rubio chose comfort. So, ask yourself, what does it mean when a leader won't say what's obvious? What kind of message does that send to allies? To enemies? To the people on the ground who are still suffering every single day? At some point, refusing to speak the truth becomes its own kind of lie.so. What do you think? Was Rubio protecting diplomacy or just protecting himself? Let us know in the comments. And if you thought this was controversial, trust us, the next one will shake things even more. Hit that subscribe button because we're just getting started.